This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I got to Rabbi. We were just in the show of the Apta Rav, Yehoshua Heschel, the Rav of Apt, but now we're here at the Makam Sion where he's buried next to Rabbi Yisroel Baal Shem Tov. So I want to try to bring out an important akuda, because not only was he a Rav here in Medzhybizh and one of the great masters of Chasidus, but he was a great Rav, he was a great Paisek. In fact, the Marsham writes in Siman Aleph of Yerodeya that Piskei Shchita and Shreifa are based, are miyusad on the Messiah from the Apta Rav. So he wasn't just great Bechasidus, he was also a great Paisek. Rabbi, the Shalom Meshav writes about him, Hachi kara shema Ohev Yisroel, ki kishmoi kenhu, haya Ohev b'chol avavoi v'chol nafshoi kol Yisroel. Uvefrat l'talmidei chachamim, he was makarev them. And the Shalom Meshav writes, our parents told us that when he was here, all the Gedolei Yisroel would come to greet him. In other words, the Ohev Yisroel was recognized b'chol tfusas Yisroel as one of the great Rabbanim in Klal Yisrael. He was a Rav in many communities. As we mentioned, he was a Rav in Kasalov, in Apta, in Yas, but he had a special affinity to Medzhybizh. Even though he's known as the Apta Rav, he said that he always wants to be associated with Medzhybizh. He had a special chavivus for the city of Medzhybizh. A very interesting thing that he writes, and I think it's an important lesson in our dar, where, you know, everybody loves to learn different svarim, and there are endless number of svarim. There's so many svarim. You could basically learn svarim your whole life and become an amaras. You don't know anything because you just know svarim. What about shas? What about poiskim? So Apta Rav had a minog. He didn't give haskamas on svarim because he says, my life is dedicated to Tarsha b'chsav, the Tarsha b'peh, tanoim amoram asher mipiyam anuchayim. I don't have time for svarim. But he gave a specific haskama to a sefer. The name of the sefer was Divrei Emes. But it's an important yediyah. Rav Moshe says a similar thing. Somebody once asked Rav Moshe about a certain sefer, which many people are familiar with. Rav Moshe says, look, you only have to know the basic svarim. You don't have to know all the svarim. There's such a musag that big gedolim have, that it's shas and poiskim. You don't have to be a baki in every type of sefer. So his grandson, Rabbi Shalom Zusha of Zinkov, writes in his grandfather's Hakdama, why did we call the name of the Sefer Ohev Yisroel? He didn't call it Ohev Yisroel. His grandchildren called it Ohev Yisroel. It's because Rabbi Yisroel would say that when you go up to the Bezin Shalmala, the only thing you could tell the Rebbeinu Shalom, Teisi li, I deserve, the only thing you could be mispire before God is if you love other Jews. You learn a lot. You're a taki, you learn. If you love another Yid, that's something that you could go up to the Bezin Shamal and say, you know what, at least l'chol hapachos, I could say, I'm an Ohev Yisroel. And the Ohev Yisroel said, when I pass away, all you should write on my Kever is I was Ohev Yisroel, and that's why they named the name of the sefer this. So I want to tell you something very interesting. The night of the Petira of the Apta Rav, in the bottom of the old cemetery in Tveria, you know, in the Chasidish Shechelka in Tveria, there's a matzeva. The matzeva is black from candles. It's covered with setlach, and it's dedicated as the matzeva of the Apta Rav. Makara. The night the Apta Rav passed away, there's a koilel that the Apta Rav was mamuna over in Tveria. The person who's in charge of that koilel hears someone knocking on the window. He opens up the window, and he doesn't see anyone. He just hears a voice. The voice said, the Apta Rav passed away, and the Apta Rav is coming to be buried in Tveria. So the Mamuna gathers all of his friends. They go to the Beis HaKvaros, and they see there's a dug grave, and the Apta Rav is in the grave. And they have a Masorah, the Tzadikim all came down in Hashemayim to clear the Avira, to make way for the Apta Rav. So he's here. Somehow there's a dimension in Tveria, and our tefillah should be niskabel in this holy makkah. Okay, we're going to do...
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.